Good morning, Eli. How are you? I think it's still processing. I'm not sure. Hey, Nicole. How are ya? Hold on a minute, guys. Just getting everything set up. I will be right back. Gotta shut the door. All that good stuff. Yes, I slept very well. Eddie, too. Nope. Well, at least not until after all the stories are read. Yeah, right? Eli needs some panel rest. Hey, Joker, how are you? Welcome, welcome. We'll be starting in a few minutes here. Still getting everything set up. Good to hear. Good to hear. Oh, no, thank you guys. Hey, Ron. Where's Ron? Did I miss Ron? Why am I not seeing Ron? No, thank you guys for the 24-hour coming in and hanging out. Thank you guys. I don't know. Ron, are you in the house? What are you sorry for? Eli? Okay, I think I'm all ready to go almost. Almost. Well, how rude, Eli. It's okay. I had another piece of pizza before I came on here. That was my breakfast. And I've never had brisket, to be honest with you. I know. He says, he didn't save any brisket plate. He could have came in and shared with the group. What's up with that, Eli? We have a few more minutes before we start. Let me make sure I got everything going. I hear you. I hear you. The heat is, man. I'm telling you. I thought I was like, okay, I'll move up to Alaska. It'll be chillier. It'll be nice, but not too cold. I can handle the cold here. And but the heat's been killer here. I'm like, what the hell? It shouldn't be this hot here. I'm in Alaska, for God's sakes. But it is. You guys ready for some ghostly tales? It is Monday, after all. Paranormal, ghostly tales. All right. Okay. Holy crap, Nicole. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. 102 Fahrenheit. Hey, Deltarune fan. How are you? Shamabog. I bet you're melting. Definitely. You're melting. All right, let's get this party started. Good morning to you all. How is everyone? On the first half of the show, we'll be talking some creepy encounters of Out Past the Shadow's Edge, A Voice in the Attic, Racing the Devil, The Ghost of Hangar 8, or The Ghost of Hangar 18. the go. I swear I didn't listen to any Megadeth. The Ghost of Hangar 10 and The Linen Closet. Then we have some ghost plane and a ghostly neighbor. Last but not least, bizarre phenomenon of static entities. Hey, homies, what's going on? Hey, Ron. Welcome, welcome. Always remember, if you have a story you'd like to share and try to figure out what you saw, please feel free to send me an email at shadowsofthemoons with an S at the end at yahoo.com. No problem if you want to stay anonymous, just let me know. I would love to share your story. Hey, Yeri. Oh, hey, Danielle. My Danielle? I'm so confused right now. Anyway, as always, if you're listening to the podcast portion of this, I invite you to come to the live shows and jump into the conversation. All right, watch your ears. Here comes the intro, guys. And so the week begins. Good Monday morning from Valdez, Alaska. Welcome to the Shadows of the Moons show. It is Monday morning, and we are live on YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Twitch, and Mixer under the same name. So come on in, join the fun, and get into the conversation. Just like always, Mondays are about Monday Musings, which is all about paranormal talk. We share stories from the internet and, of course, your stories live on air. Without further ado, let's get started.
And now, coming to you live from Alaska, here's a woman that has been around many moons and has seen many shadows. here is your host, Shadows of the Moon.
What's up, guys? Good morning. How are you? Hey, beep, beep. How are you? How have you been? Okay, so Yuri is my Danielle. All right, bud. Gotcha. Oh, cool, homies. First time in your life. Thank you for having me. Well, thank you for coming on in and chilling with us. What is going on? I hope everybody's having a good morning or good afternoon or good evening. It's morning here, 10 a.m. my time. Eli says pizza time. So far in the house, we have Eli, Nicole, Yuri, Beep Beep, Gromies Homies, Ron. Hey, Ron. Oh, I did say hey to you, right? Right. Hopefully. And that's it for the moment. We got some people lurking, which is always welcome in my chat. And you're always, of course, welcome to speak up too. But hey, to everybody who's out there listening, what is going on? Yes, evening. Evening over there in Belgium. 11 a.m. on the West Coast. There you go. That's closer to my time. So you must be over in the California, West Coast. You are all my peoples. I love having you guys here. Love having you guys here and talking to you. Definitely. My camera moved again. Excuse my fingers. I swear I washed them. So, shall we get right into the first story? It's some o'clock somewhere. That's right. Oh, very cool. You're making a story of hair. Are you doing the little clay animation and taking pictures and that? California. Okay, Ventura. Ventura Boulevard. Yeah, stop animation. Yeah, that's what I meant. Harold is Yuri is my daughter. She made a shadow. Hey, Blue. A little clay, I guess, a little clay guy. No, I have coffee and Pepsi. I already ate the piece of pizza. I definitely am not going to eat on air. How are you doing, Blue? Oh, you're just going to do a comic? Okay, gotcha. Very cool. Very cool, my bugaboo. She's probably like, Ma, do you have to call me that on air? Nope, haven't heard nothing. Haven't heard nothing, Ron. I went stalker mode on her, even searching to make sure that I didn't read anything bad or anything like that. Good to hear, Blue. Good to hear. Good to see you in chat as well. So soon I'm gonna have to change up my intro. I know. I hope she's okay too. She's got me a lot worried. I am anxious, worried for her. I really am. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to change up my intro. Eddie's computer should be here today or tomorrow. Now that I said that, probably meant Thursday. Ron. Ryan was up on stream yesterday with us. Yeah, so um yeah. So his computer should be here and he'll be obviously coming on live with me and being my co-host. He's so excited. I'm excited. I thank you guys all for welcoming him on the stream. You guys are awesome. I knew it would be. I knew he'd get over with everybody well. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? How you doing? So yeah, I knew. I mean, he's good. I know. I know, Danielle. You're gonna be an aunt. I'm gonna be a grandma. We're excited. She needs to have the baby. Ryan thinks that it's gonna be around like how mine and your birthday is. Wouldn't that be cool if he keeps with the tradition? Like the baby's born on June 25th or June 27th? Yeah. Oh, did he tell you? Okay, cool. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Lisa. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're doing better, though. I'm glad you're doing better. Yeah, that's right. I am the new GPS. If anybody wasn't listening yesterday, my son came up on panel and I had to look up Google Maps and try to get him to his destination. So I'm the new GPS on air in the wrong direction. Yes, he did have to turn around once because he was going the wrong way. Okay, you let me know if you see that head. Yeah, the other night we had some paranormal activity here. Eli saw over here, right here, a head pop out of this wardrobe, whatever you want to call it. I keep my wigs in there. Um, he saw a head pop up, and then when Eddie left the stream, there was a guy pacing back and forth here. So be on the lookout. You never know what you're going to see on the show. Um, Yum. That's right. I got my coffee. That's yum. I again woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. Why? I have no clue. Apparently, that's my new wake up time, 5 a.m. Yay. All right, guys. Shall we get into the stories? Like I said, today is paranormal stories. The first story we have up is our past the shadow or out past the shadow's edge. Look, I'm screwing up. Welcome to Shadows of the Moon. So this is every time I think of the story, it gives me the chills, even after all these years. I remember that night so very vividly. This happened to me about 16 years ago, right after I had gotten my driver's license and I got to use my dad's car for the first time. My girlfriend and I were excited to go to a dance at our high school that Saturday night, and I was more than a little nervous about driving the stick shift without mom or dad in the car, I always had a habit of killing the engine when I tried to start it. It was early October, but the air was still warm and the moon was yellow and in sickle form. There was dark storm clouds looming over the mountains and moving closer to Salt Lake Valley. My girlfriend and I went to the dance and had a great time, staying way into the night. When the dance was over and after everyone had been sent away by the dance school staff, we moved on. We drove around looking for some place to go, as the newness of being on our own with the car would not wear off for several more months. I picked the old grade school that we had both gone to when we were children. We were fairly close to where we lived, so it felt safe and there was nothing to worry about except the looming rain clouds. We parked in the parking lot behind the school and walked into the huge grass playing field and the playground behind the school. The field was lit by one of those huge stadium type lamps that cast a circle of dim light on the playground and playing field surrounding it. She and I sat on the swings, talking way into the night. It started raining, a cool mist that was very pleasant. But after an hour or so, it was enough rain to make the ground under us muddy. So we were careful not to stick our feet in the mud. And of course, this will be very important in a minute. It became quiet and we were both very tired by then. We suddenly looked at the same moment. The hair stood up on the back of my neck as we both felt the need to look back and over our left shoulders. Something had caught the corner of our eye. About 200 feet or so, there was something crawling on its stomach out past the shadow's edge of the light where the giant stadium bulb gave off. We both stared in horror, not saying anything. We watched as this thing moved towards us, just keeping on the border of the lighted shadow. It was humanoid looking, a dark color with no clothes on. It was laying flat on its belly, its arms down, held close to its waist. But what frightened me the most, besides the fact that it was been coming up behind us, was the way it moved and the structure of its legs. It was inching forward, moving nothing but its feet to push it forward. And the legs, if you look at normal human knees, the knees bend forward. This thing was in reverse. The joints bent back and away. Imagine laying flat on your stomach with your hands pulled to your sides at your waist and your knees are up off the ground instead of against it. We stared for several seconds. We both had stopped breathing and the only sound was the rain falling. The head of the thing looked up and I saw nothing but black pools where the eyes should be. My girlfriend and I jumped off the swings into the wet grass and lunged into the car about 50 feet away. There was several seconds of panic when I couldn't get the car to start, and I was terrified to look up. I didn't want to see it closing in on us. I didn't want to see those knees bending in the wrong direction and the black, soulless eyes. I was afraid I would pop the clutch in the car and not be able to start it again. I kept my head down and looking at the steering wheel. The engine turned and caught, and we tore off into the night. I called my folks from my girlfriend's house and told them what had happened. They allowed me to stay there with her and her mom until the sun came up a few hours later. We waited and passed the time by telling her mother our story, which scared her as well as my parents badly. When the sun came up early that Sunday morning, we drove back to see if it was still there, this time bringing weapons. But there was nothing as we searched that field. We poked around the swings we had been sitting on earlier. There were large barefoot prints that had tracked through the mud all around the swings we were on. We both had our shoes on. As I said before, and we were careful not to get mud on them. And we had not walked around and around like these tracks had. We found nothing but these bare tracks. Once in a while, I get brave enough to go back to the field late at night. Never alone, though. I sit by the school field side in my truck with the high beams on, searching the area, but I've never seen it again. Creepy. See? Unnatural. I don't like unnatural things. All right, beep beep. That's definitely very, very creepy. I don't know. But I can't imagine. Hey, System Failure, how you doing? I can't imagine. All I can see when somebody sees the knees bent backwards. Do you remember that movie? What movie was that with Charlie Sheen? Was it It wasn't Contact. Um. Oh my God! But at the end, the little boy's knees. All the aliens had like their knees bent the other way, like they walked differently. And so that's what I'm thinking, only laying down. That would be creepy as hell. Really, Lisa? In Utah, huh? Hey, Andy. heading. I saw it tearing past Porcelain Bend, heading for Northern Sea. Oh, yeah? Good to hear, system failure. I'm glad to hear you're doing wonderful. I am. I know, it's a pain in the ass. YouTube's becoming a pain in the ass. But, yeah, I mean, that's just creepy to see something like that. You still can't remember that movie? Eli, you were supposed to wake up at 3 AM and remember that movie. Yes. Oh, yeah, salt. Duh. Never mind. I'm not awake yet. Yes, Lisa. Thank you. I didn't put the link in chat like I normally do. I forgot. But the links are in the description. Should be in the description. Okay, Liam. I just see beep beep and I'm like, beep, I think of the Roadrunner. So the next story we have is a voice in the attic. Eli. Oh, way to go, system failure. Way to go. I know I hadn't seen you stream. I was wondering what's going on. Yeah, I will definitely pop over. Definitely. I've been looking out for you. I haven't seen a lot of people streaming lately. Yeah, I got a few voices in my attic as well. But yeah, I was wondering where you are, where you been. So that's what happened, huh? Gotta love it. Don't do that, Danielle. Yeah, Siren Head's creepy. Not true, but well, true that it's creepy, but you know. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this next story. Like I said, it's called A Voice in the Attic. There was an old farmhouse until it was torn down a few years ago. It stood in the middle of a 3-acre plot in the land in Afton, Wyoming. At the time, the land belonged to my wife's grandparents, who had purchased the otherwise barren expense in the spring of 1982 with the intent of building a home on the northwest edge of the property closest to the main road. The home was built, the perimeter was fenced, and the rest of the land kept for the horses they own. After toying with the idea of renovating the 60-year-old farmhouse and turning it into a guest cottage, they decided against it and now only use it for additional storage space. In the summer of 1997, my wife and I received an invitation from her grandparents to spend a few days in their home. And so we packed our overnight bags and made the 3-hour drive from our home to in Utah. Again, with the Utah. They brought it with them. Look at it. Looking forward to the weekend spent taking in a rustic scenery and relaxing. I've heard that system failure. A lot of UFOs live outside. I've heard a lot of UFOs being in London lately. For the record, I have always had a fascination with the paranormal, but my interest is always rooted in more mundane aspects: horror movies, scary novels, and the occasional worthwhile TV documentary. My wife Jane, on the other hand, has always been more willing participant in the pursuit of such topics. And as a result of her forays in the world of ghost hunting, boasts a collection of self-taken spirit photographs to complement her library archives of EVPs. The phenomena of ghost photography, a pursuit that's been around since the invention of the camera itself, is somewhat that, to my practical and reasoning mind, can often be dismissed as nothing more than double exposure. The reflection of light, a water spots on the camera lens, etc., etc. What really captured my imagination, however, was the audio recordings. Some of the anomalies that I have heard on these tapes could easily be written off using more earthbound than otherworldly explanations. Yet there is some that even a rational mind must admit are beyond the scope of common experiences and understandings. In any case, beyond having heard or read about such occurrences, I have never had a personal experience with the paranormal, not until the weekend that we spent with my wife's grandparents' home in July of 1997. Making sure I didn't miss anybody. We arrived in Afton late in a Friday evening, and after a few cups of coffee and conversations with the grandparents, we decided to turn in. Laying awake in bed talking, not quite able to sleep just yet, our conversation turned to the old farmhouse that stood about 50 yards off the south side of the house. This was my first visit here, and I was much enticed by the farmhouse's seemingly ancient, decrepit beauty, as I was impressed by its subtle yet unmistakable air of foreboding. I mentioned to Jane how creepy it had looked under the light of the full moon as we approached the house, and how perfect it would be a perfect setting for seemed the types of hauntings I was ever so fond of reading about on a dark, wintry night. I asked her what it was like inside. She responded by telling me she didn't know. She'd never been inside. I found this strange. What with my wife's seemingly voracious appetite for all things frightening, not to mention the inner fortitude she always displayed in braving cemeteries at night, armed only with a flashlight, tape recorder, and a loaded camera, her answer was simple. Grandpa's never let me inside. He's afraid the roof might cave in on me. With that, my curiosity was more so. But at breakfast the next morning, the germ of notion that I had planted in her head was alive and kicking, and she broached the subject with her grandfather. It's a dangerous place. There's bats in the attic, and I don't want you poking around in there, is all he said when asked about it, attempting to turn the conversation from the subject at hand by asking if we wanted to ride the horses after breakfast. You have to know my wife the way I know her to understand that this would not satisfy her curiosity. And you also have to know how persistent she can be to understand my mind shock when she simply let the subject lie. After an hour after breakfast, strolling out of the house stable for a mid-morning ride, she turned to me with a mischievous glance and informed me that we would be investigating the old farmhouse just as soon as Grandpa headed to town for groceries. I took this about as well as someone who's been informed of impending oral surgery, but I also knew better than to resist her will or let her go alone. The last thing I wanted on this quiet weekend was an upset wife, or a far less an injured one. So I said okay. The sun was straight overhead and beating hot as we approached the doorway of the old farmhouse, with nothing but our wits in tow. I hesitated at the entrance, casting a glance over my shoulder to ensure that no loud lectures about venturing into unsound structures would be delivered over dinner that night. But Jane walked straight like a woman with a mission. I followed her inside, nearly tripping over a horse saddle that had been just left inside the doorway. The doorless entry opened up into a fairly large room crowded with old cardboard boxes and a large work table stacked with brittles and old horse saddles. To the right, there was another doorway that led to the much smaller room, a bedroom, I suppose. The way into the room was made impenetrable by stacks of boxes and crates. Off to the left, I saw an even smaller doorway that exposed a rickety flight of stairs leading presumably to the attic above. Hey, Shrimpy. Oh, I said hey, Shrimpy because I saw Annie say that. Sorry. Hi, Shrimp Shack. The interior was fairly well lit by the large cracked picture window that had, at some point, and for a reason I never discovered, been painted over, but was now badly peeling. The first thing I noticed was how the previous occupants had apparently plastered draft holes in the walls with what to be I would say was probably old newspaper. On closer inspection proved my initial assumption to be true, and I discovered the dates of the newspaper went as far back as the 1930s. Jane, now also having discovered the aged newspaper that crammed the draft holes in the walls, was attempting to flatten out a large torn portion of the strip of newspaper that announced the destruction of the Hindenburg in Lakehurst in 1937. She called me over and we stood there marveling at it. It was mid-sentence decrying the use of such historical headlines as hole fodder when we heard the thump overhead. In retrospect, I wish we had a video camera to record my reaction to the sound because I nearly jumped out of my skin and my motions, although betrayed by my desire to remain cool in the situation, displayed a willingness to race headlong out the entryway of that place. But my legs and feet, loyal to my inner workings, took only a single step before falling into compliance. Heads now turned upright in the blackened wood overhead, I started to mutter, "Did you hear that?" When Jane cut me off with a swatter of her arm and a sharp shh, dead silence ensued for the next 30 seconds as we stood there, frozen, until I finally spoke again in a whisper. "Could be the bats your grandfather warned us about. Let's go." But she would not be moved. Her will would not be shaken. I was about to fire off some crack about the woes of having a Ghostbuster for a wife when it came again, this time more distinct. Not directly overhead, but further toward the back of the structure, as if something in the far corner of the attic of our heads. Bats fly. I thought to myself, they don't walk, and they certainly don't lay heavy footsteps in their wake. Immediately after our heads turned toward the doorway to our left, the doorway led to the short flight of steps into the attic. I asked her if she thought it could be a cat or a bat finally giving up its ghost of hanging upside down from a rafter at a 100-degree temperature, but the silence of her response only served to shaken me up all the more when it came to the third time, actually loosening dirt from the rafters and punctuated by what I can only describe as a dragging shuffle on floorboards overhead. That was enough for me. I took a hold of Jane's arm and given a firm tug. Let's go. But I know my wife, and I ought to known better than that. Eyes still fixed on the first 3 steps leading to the attic, head cocked sideways in almost a comical manner, straining to hear, she whispered, "It sounds like there's something up there." Now, I don't know about most people, but I don't do well with declarations such as those under circumstances such as these. Anything bearing in even remotely similarity, really, anything bearing an even remote similarity to the typical Fright Fest dialogue of, "They're coming to get you," or heaven forbid, "They're here," and I'm a running fool with feet flying out ahead of me like a leper over hot coals. But I suppose that I would be willing to trade bearing sole witness to any of those proclamations in exchange for what we heard next, which is something that my rational mind still grapples with, something that I lived to be 100 I will never forget. The voice was soft, a low muffled by the rafters and the overhead floorboards that separated us from the attic, and it called the words, "David, is that you?" One moment we're in that dark, stuffy farmhouse. The next we are out in the bright sunlight with the breeze blowing in our faces as we stepped lively through the tall back grass toward the main house. It was that quick and that synchronicity. At the moment when I must have realized that whatever courage I had held out no further, and I decided it was better to than run to stand. Jane had also reached her threshold of tolerance, and we both got the hell out of there. One very important fact, and I state this for the record, my name is not David, nor is her grandfather's name not David, nor do either any of us know anyone by that name. Strange as it may seem, the name being such a common one. What's even stranger is that you might think once away from their whatever danger they might have been in, or we might have been in, or imagine we're in, within the safety of sunlight and dependabilities of concrete world, we would have felt a rush of exhilaration or adrenaline. But it was quite the opposite. You'd think that we would have found ourselves a safe space somewhere and sat talking about what we had heard, or what we thought we had heard, but we didn't. We simply turned our heels quick, left, and not another mention of the experience was had that day until we found ourselves in bed again late that night, unable to sleep and unable to forget. She brought up, of course, it's when you go into bed, you got to talk about scary stuff right before you go to sleep. She brought up the topic gently, almost as expecting me to stammer out a request to close the subject and leave it that way. But I found that once removed from the situation, I was able to confront it with a little more ease. I told her what I thought I had heard and danced around a million different possibilities, explanations, or a million different possible explanations for what I what it could have been. Everything from filling in our teeth picking up a nearby the fillings in our teeth picking up a nearby radio station to an old phonograph player that could have been stored up there and just had fallen over after 50 years and scratched out a snippet of a song whose lyric we mistakenly took it to be some ghostly voice from beyond. I figured it was much easier to believe either of those scenarios than consider any other worldly possibilities. But the explanation that occurred to Jane as we lay there in bed sleepless was a bit more frightening than any. Maybe there's someone living up there and my grandparents don't know about it, she said, and look startled concern came over her face. The idea sent shiver up and down my spine, offering up images of escaped mental patients creeping into unsuspecting people's properties in the dead of night, clad in flowing hospital gowns. And it alarmed me to the point where I actually got a bed, stood at the window looking into the property, offering a clear view of the moon-washed farmhouse, and actually considered even going out there with a baseball bat in hand or calling the local police to check it out. But we could have been mistaken in what we heard. Could have been a rational explanation. And the last thing I wanted to do, apart from admitting to her grandfather that we were betrayed his wishes to keep out, was to call the police to investigate the overactive imaginations of young married couple. They probably asked us to provide urine samples for our troubles, and that was the one place we didn't want to go. So we determined that at daybreak we would go investigate yet again. This time we approached a farmhouse, not having mentioned our concerns to her grandparents for the fear of causing probable undue worry. I was armed with a short-handled shovel I found laying on the grass, and Jane, not entirely convinced the sound had come from an earthly person with a long-handled flashlight and a mini cassette recorder she rarely left home without. Wording what wrong? Hey Cassie. I'm always wording stuff wrong. Hey, undefined. Oh, Facebook undefined. Hey, Anton. Oh, I wasn't wording that wrong. Okay. I'm doing okay. I slept really well last night. I thought I worded something wrong. I'm like, "You guys should be used to that by now." Um, so on our second entrance, I don't know who was on Facebook, but hi, it didn't say your name, which is weird. Why would it do that, guys? I know, Lisa. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Did you say hi in Facebook, Cassie? Because it just popped up and it said hi, and it said Facebook or Facebook undefined user. Okay, okay, good. I didn't want to ignore anybody. I was scared I was ignoring somebody, and I was like, I don't know who it was. Okay, cool. All right. I don't know why Facebook would be doing that. I might have to refresh it in my restream. Um, so on our second entrance, as in many days through the doorway of the farmhouse proved to be a lot more ordinary than my imagination had fancied it might be, and the notion that someone may have actually taken up residence in the ramshackle pile of sticks was quickly put to rest on a second look at the conditions of the old house, and the likeliness that anyone attempting to climb up the flight of stairs leading to the attic would most likely crash through the rotted wood and break a leg or worse. We stood there listening in silence what seemed like an eternity, but what was mostly likely just a few minutes. Nothing, no sounds except for the occasional crack of the old blackened wood settling. We decided that since we had come this far, we were damned if we were going to leave without a good and thorough search, and we set about the task of figuring out a way to ascend the steps leading to the attic. Yeah, Facebook undefined. How are you? It was weird. Hey, Kirk, did I miss him coming in? I'm sorry if I did. I know. Always interesting when things go on in my chat, in my stream. It's always something, Cassie. It's always something, I swear. Oh, okay. Hey, Joanne. I won't tell anybody you're lurking. No worries. Hey, Kirk. So I'd spot a fairly fresh plank of wood about 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 3 inches thick, lying in the yard of the farmhouse as we approached. So I came up with the idea that perhaps we could lay the plank lengthwise across the top of the steps and crawl our way up. Jane's first attempt at laying any weight on the board caused a groan in the old woodwork underneath. So I insisted on attempting to reinforce it from below with several odd look length 2x4s. I also spotted them on the yard outside in the yard outside. We worked quietly in the light of early dawn, aware that to be caught rooting around like children in an old farmhouse against our grandfather's wishes would earn us a severe talking to. Finally, after about a half an hour, we had constructed our ascension ramp, and after another 5 minutes quietly arguing over who should go to the first up, that would be me and Addie. I swear to God. I was shuffling up the length of the plank into my hands and knees, shovel at the ready, and Jane insistent that she should be the first to go was quietly overruled by my proclamations that if there is an actual some crazy person living in the attic, the person with a weapon of defense ought to be the first one That is so me and Eddie. She finally consented grudgingly. So, for I have married a woman with the courage of two men and with only a fleeting hesitation, I was up and on my way. Did another one come in, Andy? If you're in Facebook, I don't know what's going on. That is so weird. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. It's not telling me who your name is. So if you could put in chat who your name is. Hi. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay. Um, by this time, the sun had emerged and sunlight cast through the holes on the roof was good enough so that I could see everything before me. As I stood on the floorboards of the attic, determining if they were in well enough shape to sustain my body weight, I scanned the large area before me, shovel at the ready, probably looking like some deranged baseball player or character of an old Sam Raimi film. Strange how the fear which has gripped me in the day before had now been swept away, in its place something much stronger, born most likely from the instinct to fight rather than flee, or the instinct of territorially over a place that I'd never been before. When I look back on it, honestly, I don't know what I was expecting to see up there in the attic, but whatever it may have been, whether flesh and bone or otherwise, there was nothing to be found. Only the old only the time-ravaged, weather-worn leftovers of previous tenants' storage, which amounted to nothing more than several rusted bed springs, an equally old mattress leaning askew against the near wall, a scattering of empty crates, and decrepitated rocking chair that sat in the farthest corner of the attic facing the wall. I stood there staring at the back of the chair until Jane's voice, directly behind me, started me out of my daze. So much for your phonograph theory. I turned around to find that as I stood there taking inventory of the space before me, she had made her way up the plank and onto the attic with me. She was aiming a beam of light and scanning every inch of the attic space before us. Yeah, right, Nicole? Yeah, right, Nicole? Facebook spirit is like Casper. So much of our uh So much for our stranger in the attic theory, I added, motioning to the inch layer of dust that covered every visible square foot of the floorboards. If anyone had been in the attic, it was long, long time ago, before we ever arrived. I'm not sure how long we stood there, but it was long enough for the two of us to determine that our notions, my notions, of homeless squatters or escaped mental patients seeking shelter, or bats for that matter, were completely unfounded. As I turned to begin our descent back down our makeshift ramp, Jane spotted and fished a black cassette out of her pocket and inserted it into the recorder. I said something like, "Hey, don't bother, we're leaving." But she informed me that she was going to leave the microcassette behind in record mode. She sat it down on the floorboards just inside the attic entry, just to satisfy my curiosity, she said, and we left. We never did fess up to what we had been up to that day or the day previous when having dinner with Jane's grandparents later that evening, nor did we tell them about the sounds we heard or the voices we thought we had heard. We were set to head back home early the following morning, and we both agreed it was far better to exchange pleasantries on the final evening of our visit rather than choke with the air of the questions about the previous tenant, the history of the land, or the possibility of spirits that lingered after death. According to Jane, things like that didn't go over well with her grandfather, who was, she said, in his youth, as well as in all the time she had known him, more practical minded and rational than I ever was. Coming from Jane, I took that as a compliment. We realized that in order to retrieve the cassette recorder Jane had left behind, we would not only have been brave with rickety ramp of our invention once again, but we'd also have to make it out there early enough so that our grandparents wouldn't see us. So we decided that it would be best to take part in the makeshift ramp, lest proof of our actions be discovered. So we resolved to wake up a half an hour before dawn and sneak out to the old farmhouse one last time. Can you imagine these married couple just hanging out and they're doing all this behind the grandfather's back because he don't want them out there? That's so funny. When we got there, this time stepping our way through the dark in the aid of Jane's flashlight, everything was just as we had left it. No sign of any ghostly disturbances, no violently overturned boxes, no footprints in the dust, other than the what we had created ourselves. I cautiously but hurried crawled my way to the wooden plank, reached a hand into the darkness, and retrieved the cassette recorder, which was in the exact same place Jane had left it the day before. We quietly removed the reinforcement 2x4s and set them in the wood floor in a neat pile, followed by the 6-foot planks itself, which came easily enough and we had leaned against the wall. My grandfather didn't want us in the attic. We went anyway. Yeah, exactly. We all do that when parents are like, or grandparents are like, no, 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 no. We're like, yeah, 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 yeah. I was just setting about a task of panting the dust and dirt from my pants legs when it came again. The same sudden sharp thump that we heard 2 days prior. My first thought was that Jane must have heard something moving up there before the thump sounded, because when I looked at her, her head was already turned upwards and her eyes were fixed on the attic entrance, directly above us. My eyes followed her stare and I looked up, though there was nothing discernible in the darkness beyond the threshold. This time it was Jane's turn to speak first, and she began to ask me if I had heard that too. But her words broke off when another thud, this time more jarring than the first, almost violent in force, sent a fistful of dust shooting from the rafters. The horrible, sickening shuffle sound came next, and the image that entered my mind was that there was someone or something dragging itself across the floor almost directly over our heads, approaching the attic entry. This time, there was no resistance, no arguments to be put up against turning tail and leaving that place behind us for good. It was an instant the two of us were stumbling through the dark toward the front entrance, and within 5 seconds, we were back out in the cool pre-dawn air. But in the cage of memory, instants can sometimes stretch to the length of eternity, and impressions can sometimes last a lifetime. As we passed through the doorway of the old farmhouse for the last time, we heard the voice again. This time much closer and coming from atop the attic stairs where we had stood only seconds ago. And this time it was much clearer, raspy, near gravely, calling after us. And the words it said were, "David, I saw you." In the time it took to clear half the distance between the old farmhouse and the grandparents' home, a mere 50 yards, I had managed to regain most of my composure and had slowed down my trot to a brisk walk through casting furtive glances over my shoulder. Ensuring my rational self that I was all good, all well in the world, and there was nothing to take up chase. Crazy thought, I know, but it was one that occurred to me, and I wouldn't be surprised if it had occurred to Jane as well, despite her outward calm demeanor. Jane had stopped about 20 feet short of her grandparents' back porch and was studying the microcassette recorder closely. "It was turned off," she said, "halfway through the tape, as if someone shut it off on purpose." I tried to reason that maybe the batteries had run out, but she quickly dispelled that notion that she pressed the rewind button and it immediately kicked into life. It only took a few seconds for the tape to reach the start of the spool, and just as she was about to press play, the back door of her grandparents' home swung open, and Grandma Perkins was standing there in her morning robe. "What are you two doing up so early?" she said. "Just saying goodbye to the horses," Jane replied in a calm fashion, and within seconds we were back inside the house with the smell of brewing coffee inside. "Okay, Danielle, I'll definitely look at it." It wasn't until we had packed our bags, said our farewells, and hit the road once again, all while eyeing the old farmhouse as we made our way down the long gravel driveway headed for the main road, that we were finally alone and able to listen to what may have been recorded. It wasn't certain that anything would come through on the tape, but I wanted to be able to listen to it without having to strain to hear over sound of the engine. So as soon as we got out about a mile, I pulled the car over to the side of the road under the shade of the tree and shut the engine off. The first sound I had on the tape were just Jane's words, just to satisfy my curiosity. Then the creaking and groaning of floorboards, and then the racket of our footfalls as we made our way down the plank and exited the farmhouse. 5 minutes of silence ensued, only with the occasional sound of an old structure settling in itself. Then another 5 or 6 minutes, the rumbles of truck driving by in the distance, then more silence. Just as the tape was about to reach the point where it had mysteriously stopped on itself, I heard something. On the first impression, it sounded like someone breathing in a short, shallow breaths. I was opening my mouth to tell Jane to stop the tape, rewind it. I may have heard something when I realized the sound was only getting louder. I could tell by the expression on Jane's face that I was not in fact hearing things. She was hearing it too. What came next, though, sent shivers down my spine and made the sounds we heard in the farmhouse frightening and inexplicable though they were, seemingly like nothing more than a precursor. The breaths seemed to be getting louder, and although no sound of movement could be heard, I got the distinct impression that something was drawing nearer to the microphone. It frightened me to the core to think that it was very cassette recorder Jane now held, trembling hands could have come closer to, or may even been touched by whatever it was that was causing that horrible sound. The breathing faded almost abruptly, followed by approximately 10 seconds of absolute silence. Not even the sound of wood settling or the car driving by in the distance. Then the singing began. It was quite unmistakable, and most distinctly the voice of an old woman, perhaps in her 80s, perhaps older. And although I could not make out the words, she was singing something, a lullaby, perhaps? To this day, I'm not sure, even if we listened to the tape, even though we have listened to the tape 100 times since and tried to amplify the sound through various means, it's certainly not a melody I or Jane or anyone else we've shared the recording with is familiar with. But it isn't that horrible breathing or the faint yet undeniable strain of song delivered by the mysterious voice that still to this day, years after the experience, years after the old farmhouse was finally torn down, and years after the grandparents sold the property and moved away, it haunts my mind haunts me in the mind in the quiet dark before sleep overtakes me. Rather, it's the final seconds of the recording that always stay with me. And I'll always serve as proof in my mind that despite our best efforts to argue in the contrary, there are things that happen in this life that are beyond the bounds of rational explanation. The singing voice stopped abruptly, as though perhaps startled by itself, and was replaced by a dry hoarse giggle, a hideous, insane laugh that erupted into a cackle just as an invisible finger reached out, brushed the microphone, and pressed stop. Hey, Lucinda, how are you? That is creepy. That is very creepy. Mm-mm. I don't know if I could do that. If I, well, I don't know if I could listen to that and not be creeped out. I am doing good. Thank you for asking as well. Good to hear that you're good. I know creepy is good. But can you imagine that? An insane laughter into a cackle before you could hear the finger brush the microphone and press stop on the recorder. That's definitely creepy. We must be sister strong. Of course, we'll be sister strong. That's why Nicole likes Andy. Right, Nicole? So that's the website to that story. The next story is called The Linen Closet. This is a shorter story. That definitely was a freaky story, though. I'm not going to lie. Most of these are short stories. There's those certain laughs that you hear and you're just like, what the hell? So this one says, I have been lucky enough to have 2 stories published on Castle of Spirits. This is my third and final story, and this is the one that freaked me out the most. In 1993, my mother, myself, and my 3 younger brothers moved into a new home that my mother had just bought. Everything was going fine up until about 3 months after we had been there. The first thing that happened was we all noticed a cold spot in the hallway outside the linen closet. Although the cold spot there was Although, along with the cold spot, there would be always a foul smell, which could never be explained. This went on for months, and we became so used to it that we forgot about it. Another few months went by, and then things started to go missing, such as keys, money, etc. We would all search the house for these items, but we could never find them. Then, out of the blue, sometimes months later, they would turn up out of nowhere. This really freaked us out, but nevertheless, we put up with it. It came to head one day when I was standing in front of the closet with my mom while she was putting up some linens away. All of a sudden, we heard a female voice say, "Come in." My mom just dropped the linens, and we both went into the lounge room, scared to death. After we had talked about what we had heard, we both agreed that the voice came from inside the linen closet and sounded like the voice of an elderly female. There was no one else home, and at the time, except my mom and myself. A few more months went by, and I was shocked one day when my mom came to me and asked if I had rearranged the linens in the closet. I told her that I hadn't, and she was dumbstruck. What had happened was every time my mom would put linens away, we would find the linen closet would be totally rearranged not long after. This went on for about 4 years, and it was happening right up until the day we moved out. I still talk about this with my mom, and we both have no explanation as to what was going on. I asked some of the neighbors about the previous owner, and I was told that it was an elderly woman that had lived there, and that she was very fussy about things were put in the house. She had died in the house about 4 years before my mom had bought it. Could the ghost of that old woman still be in that house organizing the linen closet the way she had it when she was alive? And was it her voice that we heard? I guess we'll never know. Right, Cassie? I hear ya. I want spirits to help me organize in my linen closet. That would be great, wouldn't it? That would be great. There's a link to that story in the chat. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean when I talk about spirits like crisscrossing in our world. What if we're in their world? What if if time is supposed to go on? I mean, time is man-made, obviously, but if time is like you live in a past, present, future all at once, right? Well, the future, who knows? The future, you might be past. So, I mean, if she's still there in that house thinking that she lives there, just like residual hauntings, who's to say we're not they're looking at the linens going, why are they put that like that? Just like you would if spirits moved your linens around. You know what I mean? That was Kirk after he used the bathroom. I know, Lisa, the knees. I'm telling you, what's that? What was that movie with Charlie Sheen? Alien movie. Here we go again, Eli. The Arrival. That's it. I haven't seen the new one, but The Arrival. Have you ever watched The Arrival? That's a freaky movie in itself. But at the end, yeah, hey, freaky geek. Yeah, talking movies again. Um, yeah, The Arrival. That's a good movie. Have you ever seen it? But at the end, like the kid's walking, right? Normal. And then he looks at Charlie Sheen and his legs turn the other way, opposite that the knees go, and starts walking like that, kind of like an ostrich. Imagine a human with ostrich legs. It's very freaky looking. And that image stuck with me throughout the many years. It's been many years since I seen it the first time. Well, it's been many years since I seen it the last time too. But um yeah, it's a freaky movie and those legs stayed with me and that's exactly what I thought about when this guy was only laying down. Obviously, they weren't running, but that's when the story hit. That's what I was thinking about was those legs. Yeah, Lisa, check it out. And you know you're going to get I'm telling you at the end when he does that, you're going to get freaked out. And the thing with it, I'm not going to tell you the whole movie cuz you got to watch it. But it's a good movie. They have a new version of it that I really want to see, but I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. Yeah, The Arrival. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, you missed the first story, Freaky, and it was about this kid that took his girl, to they were hanging out one night and they turn around and they saw this creature crawling towards them, laying on its stomach, had no clothes on. The hands were and wrists were by its waist, and the legs were bent backwards, like pointing, you know what I mean, up. And that's the feet were going like that's, like you can see me, we're pushing up, and that's how it was moving. Right? Yeah, it was creepy. Yeah, that jump at the end. That's what, oh, that will always, I can see that image in my head, plain as day. Freaky geek. So yeah, that was a creepy ass story. I'm not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. So the next one that I have for you guys, and if you missed it, you would think I was a Megadeth fan. Um, is called The Ghost of Hangar 10. um, because earlier when I was talking about this, I said The Ghost of Hangar 18, and they had the song Hangar 18. Ha ha ha, you know. Um, but anyway, so The Ghost of Hangar 10. In 1997, I had just graduated from college and I was offered a job with an aircraft company working in an old rundown hangar. I was told that it would not be glamorous and that the office was far from state of the art, but the work was easy and I could use my spare time writing. I thought about it and decided that it might not be so bad after all. Who else is going to hire me with that kind of money just out of college? I'm glad you do, Cassie. I'm glad you do. I like these stories too. Arcec had been a compliment to this old World War II hangar that I worked on or worked in. On one end, there was an aging DC-3 gathering dust, waiting for the local museum to allocate the funds to have it transported to their building. And in the other end of the hangar, we kept the complimentary aircraft for us to work on and for storage. The hangar doors have many of the original panes of glass that were installed when the hangar was first built, and it was not unusual for us to return to work and find one or two panes have fallen out and shattered on the hangar floor. We have even had a wing of one of the planes damaged from the falling glass. The office is an old parts storage area that had been gutted out and was equipped with the 3 desks and a computer. In the middle of the west wall was an old rusty garage door that, when you can get it open, leads to the hangar. The most I can ever get it open is about 3 feet. My job was to make sure that the GPS system in the aircraft are up to date and to make sure that the logbooks are kept current. Most of my work is done from my office, and I only spend a few hours a day out in the hangar. Oh, you guys are so sweet. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Making me blush. One day, John, a Native American we have working with us, came up and said, "So, Annie, have you ran into anything weird out here yet?" "No," I said. "But sometimes after you guys leave at night, I have to go through and close some of the airplane doors, and someone left the bat, switch and rotate beacon. Oh, left the BAT. Switch and rotating beacon on the 52 LT the other night." "Not one of my guys," he said with a laugh and walked out of the office. So you know that this is going to be good. I had heard some of the guys mumbling about a ghost in the hangar, but I've always laughed those things off. It was not unusual for me to be alone in the hangar after dark, and oftentimes I heard noises that sounds like one of the other guys yelling to someone, but I used to chalk it up to the birds that have made their home in the hangar. Because birds go, "Hey, Joe." One night, as I was trying to download an update off the internet, I felt as though someone was in the office with me. I heard footsteps walk across the room, and I could actually feel the temperature drop as if someone had opened the door. "Did you forget your house keys, John?" I asked. As I looked over my shoulder, there was no one there. But I could have sworn that I heard footsteps in the office, and I felt like someone was watching me. I gave up on the download and decided I would return the next day, even though it was the weekend, and work while it was daylight. The next morning, I was woken by a loud ring of my telephone. Hey, Lunar, how are ya? Hello? I answered in a sleepy voice. Annie girl, did I wake you? It was my grandfather's voice on the other end with background noises of a payphone. That's okay, Grandpa. I need to get up anyway, I said as I sat up, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. What's up? Grandma and I just got into town and I wanted to know if you wanted to meet us for lunch. I looked over the clock and I could not believe it was already noon. I have to run out of the airport and do some load for GPS, but after that I can. I spoke into the phone as I slipped on a pair of jeans and searched for a t-shirt to wear. Why don't you meet me there? I'll be at Hangar 10. I almost said Hangar 18 again. My granddad was an old Navy aviation man himself, told me he knew right where it was. Back in the old DC-3 days, he used to work on the old hangar himself. Good job. Good job, Danielle. I'm so proud of you. Way to go, my bug. Awesome job. I'm so proud of you. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Thank you for your diamond. Around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Thank you, never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Welcome back, Eli. Oh, my bug. I'm so proud of you, honey. Good job. Well, in the daylight of my office seemed downright homey. I chastised myself for being such a chicken and letting rumors get the best of me. I finished the download and walked out in the parking lot just as I saw my grandparents drive up. Why don't I show you around? I suggested to my granddad. Let you see if it's changed much since your day. Sorry for hitting the mic, guys. I showed them the side of the hangar we kept the airplanes on and went into the north side where the DC-3 is being stored. I can't believe this old thing is still here, my granddad gasped. My best friend Patty O'Shea used to fly this. After World War II, we both got jobs here when we came back. The museum bought it and they are trying to raise funds to have it shipped piece by piece there, I told him. Poor old Patty was killed by that airplane, Grandpa said. One morning they had just gotten back from the long flight and Patty was checking on the prop for a bird strike on one of the line boys' tugs got away from him and crushed poor Patty up against the plane. He was dead before we could get him help. You know, my grandfather said, you look a lot like poor Maggie May, Patty's wife. Don't you don't you think so, Papa? Sure she does, and you should take that as a compliment. Maggie May was one of the most sought after girls from our hometown. He smiled at my grandma. I mean, she was the second most sought after girl. She couldn't hold a candle next to your grandma. Grandma blushed and winked at my granddad. Hey, Three Souls Paranormal, how are you? Okay, Danielle. Oh, I can't wait to read it. It's going to be awesome. That's okay, Ron. I get it. Um, the weekend went by fast, and before I knew it, Monday morning was already here. I spent my day fishing up some paperwork and doing research on some ADs we had been sent. Before I knew the line guys were coming to clock out for the day, I still had a few hours of work left and decided that I would work late so I could take off Friday. I continued to work and soon lost track of time. As I concentrated on the work before me again, I heard the footsteps in the office, and the temperature dropped just like on Friday. My ghost was back. A chill ran up my spine as I felt my hair being gently lifted and swept back as someone wanted to get a good look at me. My heart was beating so hard and fast that I almost passed out from the fright. Then again, I remembered reading somewhere that if you're told the spirits to leave you alone, they had to. I don't know who you are, I said in a loud, forceful voice, but I want you to leave me alone. You can have the hangar, but stay out of my office. With that, the room warmed up and I heard the outdoor of my office slam shut. Don't go away, Mad, I mumbled to myself. Just go away. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. As I pushed it open, the door stuck tight. My ghost had locked me in, and the padlock that we used to secure the office was on the outside. Very funny, I said loudly as I walked back to the office and tried to lift the garage door on the west wall. I was able to get it open about 3 feet and braced it with chalk, which is a piece of wood we put up against the airplane tires to keep them from rolling on windy days as a safeguard, just in case the brakes are not set. Right? It does sound like I threw my bag under the door and crawled my way to freedom. Standing up, I dusted the cobwebs out of my hair and my jeans, and I could hear my new friend laughing heartily at me. Ha ha, I said to the empty hangar, then realized that I left my car keys and cell phone on my desk. So I had to crawl back under the door and got them, and then crawl back under again, each time getting dirtier and dustier. By the time I finally left, he was laughing so hard that it seemed that the walls were shaking. Funny thing is, I was kind of laughing at myself also, and had long forgotten to be scared. For the next few weeks, nothing but the occasional noises in the hangar went on, and then one night I was closing everything up, trying to get out of the hangar before the storm that had been dancing on the horizon moved in. I went out in the hangar and noticed that someone had left one of the panels of the hangar door open after they had brought in the last airplane. I walked outside to push it closed just as large drops of rain began to fall from the sky and the wind began to pick up. I slipped into the hangar just as the door slid closed and started to bend down to grab my bag when I heard, Maggie, watch out! And as and I felt as if I had been tackled. I flew backwards, hitting my head on the wing of a plane. The last thing I can remember was a cold hand caressing my forehead and what could have been a kiss on my cheek. When I came to an when I came to an old security guard was calling out for an ambulance. I looked over to where my bag was and it was covered with shards of sharp glass. I suffered a concussion and a few bruises around my ribs that looked like it had been tackled, but I knew I could have been a lot worse if my friend, I now call Patty, would have not been out there looking out for me. When I got back to work a week later, I opened my office door after everyone left and yelled out to the hangar, Hey Patty, you're welcome to haunt my office anytime. Every now and then I feel them come in and watch me. It doesn't creep me out in the way it once did. And I even feel a little safer now when I have to work late. What an awesome story. That is really, I mean, has any of you ever got like saved by a ghost like that? Or anything like led somewhere that you could help somebody or anything like that? I can't say that I have. Excuse me. I can't say that I have. Um But that would definitely be worn by some. That's cool, Nicole. Like, don't go this way, kind of like your instincts. Yeah, that's true, Freaky Geek. I could see that. They be warning you, don't go that way. And you're like, hell with that. I'm going this way because I'm running. I'm not thinking about where I'm going, just getting the hell out of here. I could see that with you, Freaky Geek. This one's called Ghostly Neighbor. It happened in Palm Desert, California. This comes from ghostville.com. And I didn't put the damn link in the all the links will be down in the in the description box. It says, this is something I will always remember. I have always believed in ghosts and their existence. My experience only furthered my belief. My encounter took place when I was 10 years old. It was late, and I was just getting back from my neighbor's house. I got in my room and peered out my window for some reasons I don't know. In between my neighbor's house and mine was an empty lot, so there was only darkness. Walking towards the light of my neighbor's house, which was up the street, was a figure of a woman walking. My first instinct that it was my friend's mother. So I opened the window and called her out by name. The woman was still walking, and I was still yelling. I was wondering why she didn't say anything or turned around. So I just watched, and as the figure reached the light, it disappeared. Even though even though the neighborhood was fairly new and never experienced a haunting at that house again, I still believed that was a ghost. Just a short little story, but definitely. I ran into the wall once when I got scared. Thank goodness I had mind enough to slow down before it hurt. Oh, I could see that. I could see that, Freaky Geek. You're welcome, Lisa. Yeah, I'm putting all the. Well, I want to paste. There we go. Um, I put all the show notes in the descriptions now and everything since I'm doing these stories because I don't want people to think they're my stories because they're not. Although some of them are very cool and I wish they were my stories. It could have been Freaky Geek. You're right. It might have been a time stream of sorts, not a ghost. That's true. That's true. So this one's called Racing the Devil. Creepy. My story begins on April night around 3 a.m. Does it, Freaky Geek? All I could think about when it was talking about the glass planes falling is the place that I used to live in New York. The windows fell out of the third story. That's all I could think about throughout that whole story, or that whole story. Want you to use watermill? That's weird. That's so weird. So it says my story begins this April night about 3 a.m. I was driving home from my girlfriend's house. She lives in Parma, Ohio. I lived in Macedonia, Ohio, about a half hour away. I was driving down Canal Road, a road that runs along a canal. What a surprise. That was used a long time ago to ship goods between Akron and Cleveland. Hey, I know where those two are. I don't know where Parma or Macedonia is, but I do know where Akron and Cleveland are. Canal Road is a fairly busy road during the day, but at this early hour, I was the only car on it. That's weird. The road also doesn't have any streetlights, so it's quite dark, and being in a low-lying area, there was always a little fog. I was driving along with my high beams on when I saw a man walking along the side of Canal Road. As I got closer, he turned and looked at my car, and I caught a look at him in the headlights. Something about him just didn't seem right. He had a very strange look on his face. I can't really explain it any better. It was just strange. I drove past him a little shook up. I'm a pretty big guy and I don't intimidate easily, but something about his face just really creeped me out. Hey, Pammy. Welcome, welcome. Yes, it is story time. About a half mile or so down the road, I got a strange feeling. I looked to my left, and just as in the glow of the light, I saw the man I had passed a while back running along the side of my car. I thought I had to be seeing things. I was doing about 45 miles per hour, but the man ran just slightly ahead of my car. I could see quite clearly that it was him, except that his face, his head was turned towards me, and I was looking right at me, was different. It was more twisted and evil looking. I hit the gas and sped up to around 55 or 60 miles per hour, and he kept up with me the whole time. By this time, I was beyond scared. I was terrified. I pressed on the gas, but I had to come to a hill, and my old car doesn't like hills too much, so it didn't pick up much more speed, maybe another mile per hour or two. Just as I was coming to the bend in the road, another car was coming the other way. It flashed its lights at me. I still had mine on, and I stopped looking at the man for a second or two. When I looked back, he was gone. I looked in the rearview mirror, but all I could see was the tall lights of the other car disappearing, or the tail lights of the other car disappearing around the bend. I didn't slow down until I got to the intersection not far from my house. To this day, I have no idea. Oh, thank you, Mama Rock, for this. Oh, thank you so much. That one got me. Thank you so much. Oh, I haven't named my triple ones yet. So I don't know what to call them. Thank you so much, Mama Rock. That is so nice of you. Thank you. Mama Rock got me, Ron. Usually Ron tries to usually tries to scare me with donating to me, and usually, I mean, he gets me a couple times, but that one got me. So to this day, I have no idea what this man was. The evil expression on his face still haunts me to this day. He reminds me very much of the pictures of the devil you see in those old paintings and such from Renaissance, very dark and ominous. I told a couple people that night, but as expected, not one of them believes me. I've almost since read about similar sightings from all over the country. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. Thank you. Hey, Anton. That's cool, Danielle. I can't wait for you either. Thank you so much for the donations. I appreciate it. Um, of course, they didn't believe me. I also since read about similar sightings from all over the country. Some people claim it's everything from ghosts to the devil to alien visitors, but I just don't know. I still drive that stretch of road occasionally, and I've never seen anything else strange. But believe me, I always keep a lookout. Now, I've heard this story before, but it was an Indian. I can't remember. It was somebody I know told me a story like that before, but I can't remember where it was, or I just remember it being an Indian chief or something. I don't know. Hey, Mom Rock, thank you so much for the donations. I appreciate it so much. So I guess there's this new thing. You know how guys would earlier before, not today, but I had a couple videos out on the Glimmer Man. We've talked about the Glimmer Man before, how sometimes some people think he's a djinn or whatnot. The guy that looks like Predator, not looks like Predator, but he disappears and becomes transparent like uh Predator. No problem, freaky geek. No problem. So this, I guess this new one, this came out June 17th, and this is from Mysterious Universes. And damn it, didn't I forget to put that link in the chat? Oh my God. I'm going to put this one in now so I don't forget it. Yeah, so that's about what they're calling him. This is the Glimmer Man because of the fact that he disappears like the Predator did in the movie. And you can see through them. There's like I've showed pictures before with the Glimmer because it's very mysterious. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and see you guys because there's a bizarre new entity. I haven't heard it of. Maybe you guys have heard of it. I haven't. It's called static entities. And all I could think about was that one episode of Charm where they were dealing with the electric dude. The electric dude. And that's the only one I can remember. I did do it the right way the first time. Damn, I'm getting good at this. So the bizarre, like I said, this is from Mysterious Universe. And let me know if you guys have heard of these things because I haven't heard. This is the first time I'm hearing of static entities. No, not shadow people. It's like I guess it's like they show up like the snow on old TVs, kind of like that, which is wild. And I haven't come across any of these stories about it until now. So it says the world of paranormal sometimes takes a steep turn off the edge of weird, offering up some new phenomenon that do not have any real category. And see what comes up out of this talking about this. Okay, Eli, no problem. Hurry back. Um, yeah, me neither, Lisa. Where the Glimmer Man, like how I've talked about before, when we talked about wondering if like we can conjure up things in our mind, like when there's so many Dogman sightings or so many Bigfoot sightings in this area, then it's over here in this area. Is it people like conjuring it up, or is it, you know what I mean? Are they migrating? What's happening, right? With static people, because it's like the snow of TVs, it's kind of odd to me that it kind of takes away from that theory because we don't have snow TVs anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not around anymore where there's snow on them unless somebody's watching a very old TV. So it's like if it's a new generational thing, it can't be people subconsciously manifesting it if it's, when there's no TVs, they don't know what the hell the snow on a TV looks like. Reminds you of Star Trek. Yeah, I get that. I get that. You kind of shimmery out. So it says, like I said, one of the most surely have been a collection of accounts linked to a phenomenon I have only recently become aware of. It revolves around tenuous, flickering beings that seem to be made purely of white noise or static, and which seem to pop into this reality to scare and confuse. That's true, Freaky Geek. But the TVs aren't around. Hey, Tamara, how are you? Here we will look at a selection of reports of truly new and difficult to categorize. Again, it's going to be hard to categorize because even with Glimmerman, we don't know to put it in, if it's paranormal or if it's cryptid. We don't know, or we haven't decided, I guess, what category to put it in. Here we look at the selection of reports of truly different, new and difficult categorized area of reports of the static things or static humanoids. Yeah, exactly, Anton. There's not a lot of analog TVs around. So, uh, hi, Pammy. Did I say hi to you before? I hope I did. We know what gender it is. It's a man. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I have. Rods have been around forever. I haven't heard about them. Actually, matter of fact, I was watching, I think, a couple months ago, um, JoJo and uh, Nation 13 was doing their basement. Brian was doing their basement, and they had rods going across, and it was the first time in like ever that I've seen rods go across somebody's screen. I mean, I haven't seen them in years. And I remember back in the day, they were a lot of people were seeing rods and capturing rods, but I haven't heard of any stories lately about them. Like, what are they? What's going on? You know what I mean? Those rods are fast. Yes, they are. Oh, I hear you, Tamara. I know how that feels. So, in many cases, these otherworldly beings seem to be particularly witnessed by children. And according to the very little research I've found on these strange entities, they seem almost drawn to the young. It is unclear if some of these, the quality of youth, or that kids are just more suggestible and prone to imagining things, but it seems to sometimes manifest in a very dramatic way. One Reddit poster called Weave Daddy 69, who seemed to have delved into the phenomenon of static humanoids, has collected many of the known accounts as to say about this aspect. They are most often seen by young children, usually from the ages of 3 to 8, or seen by the proximity of children. One story I found is that a mother who saw one of these beings watching her infant son in the crib. Another tells of a young boy who went missing in the woods for several days after he was followed by the fuzzy man. He was eventually found alive and was in perfect condition despite having been in the woods for several days. Is that the one that's weird? Because I thought that was like a Bigfoot. Welcome back, Cassie. I thought that was Bigfoot that saved him. I don't know. This came as a surprise. Now I'm gonna have to go find that story and reread it. This came to my surprise to everyone who found him. The precise nature of the relationship with children is still unclear, but it continues to appear in these cases. It's getting that time, guys. Such cases such as seems to pervade the phenomenon as a whole. And another is from Reddit poster called Namora 2018, who says this happened when she was 8 years old. She says that it's a long time she was in her own house and sitting in a lounge at the end of a hallway. Although she doesn't remember exactly what she had been doing in the lounge, she certainly remembers the strange experience she would have there. She says, all of a sudden, I had a really powerful urge to look at the end of the hallway. We had recently bought a coat stand from a boot sale and was in the middle of the hallway now. As I stood there, I saw a human outline, but entirely filled with TV like static. I remember little bits of yellows and blue in it, but was mainly white. And it came out of the bedroom on the left and was running in a running stance, but it was really weird because it was in slow motion and it ran from the left to the back door on the right. As it ran, it grabbed the coat stand and pulled it down with it, and it fell to the floor. So they can move objects. I was just standing there after in shock and was so scared. I ran back to my sister and told her what happened, and when we went back to the hallway, the stand was still on the floor. That was the only time I saw it. I don't know why I saw it or why it pulled the stand down as it was just all surreal. I did have some other experiences in the house that were paranormal, so maybe it was connected. Sorry, from X Files with a boy got a military satellite broadcast. by watching that white noise. Funny thing that I believe that, Anton. I believe that. It was a true story. Yeah, I believe that. Definitely. I used to watch white noise all the time. Matter of fact, I want to find an old analog TV, and there probably is somewhere around here in Alaska because nobody, I mean, people have newer things, but not really. So there's got to be around because I want to do the old style ITC where you loop the static through the camera. Slept over my cousin's last year. Kids slept in room with me, third floor high, as trees surrounded like predator came from tree. Really? Really, Pammy? I think they're emptying the trash. It scared me a little. That's crazy, Pammy. Oh, so well, never mind the welcome back then if you never left. A similar case comes from a poster called Joshy Bear, again happening in the confines of a home. In this case, the witness, who was a kid at the time, remembers getting up one evening to get a glass of water, after which he went to his parents' room. He doesn't recall why he went into the room, but he feels as though it might have been drawn there by something. So apparently these things, they make you, I mean, we've all been sitting there and been drawn to look at something, right? Oh, thank you for following, Sid. Okay, I was making sure I said Sid, not side. I know. They are really good stories, aren't they? They really are. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Come on in and join the conversation. Um, so whatever it is, it's making you have that feeling, uh, like you're pulled somewhere. So you're pulled somewhere and it can move objects. This is interesting. This is, like I said, a new type of entity, I guess. Uh, but he feels as he might have been drawn there by something, and that is when he had an odd encounter, he says. When I walked into the room, there was no door. I saw on the other side of the bed a huge humanoid shape that looked like it was made of a static from a TV, except the white was purple and kind of like when you rub your eyes through your eyelids immediately, so pixelated kind of thing. I immediately just laid down and went to sleep right there, and I woke up in the morning and woke up there in the morning. Don't think I ever told anyone about it until years later. I was 3 or 4, so it was possible my imagination just went nuts, but it always stuck with me. No worries, Pammy. It seems that in some cases these encounters can become reoccurring, starting when the witness is very young, but continuing to later years of life. Reddit poster Jelly Bean Scythe is one such case and explains that since a very young age, he had been occasional episodes of seeing visual snow in his field of vision, like a TV static overload over everything seen. And it is through this crackling veneer of white noise that says humanoid shapes take form. These entities can get out of the static, seemingly made of this visual snow, and according to him, appeared in corners at the edge of a bed in windowsills. He says, I was I was incredibly myopic, and it was astigmatism. However, or he has astigmatism. So, however, last December I had PRK, a laser eye surgery, and the static never went away because it's always been there. If I'm not focused in, I can sort of tune out the static like a white noise. And that's how I usually go about my day to day. When I was a kid, I always told myself it was just my imagination, but laying in my bed at night, it was hard to believe it was all in my head. Now, in the past 4 years, I've stopped trying to ignore them. I don't avidly seek them out, but I admit that there is something magnetic about them. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense. The whole situation is difficult to describe. Firstly, first comes the anxiety. Then I see them, and then something just clicks. It could be depersonalization or derealization, but it's also very surreal. I try to draw features when I can, but the more I focus on them, the more their features seem to shift without moving. I used to think they were aliens. I was always terrified of aliens. Then I thought they were the good folk. Now I believe it's all in the same. To me, it doesn't really matter if they're a figment of my mind or an actual entity, aliens or fairies or ghosts or whatever. Regardless of the nature of their existence, I see them. Others see them. So something, somehow, some way must be there. People getting naughty in my chat? I'm just joking. So definitely here's another story. I don't speak English very well, so I hope you can understand if I misspell. I tried to tell you with my experience with a static man. But first, but first to enter in context, I am from Mexico, more specifically in a city called Cordoba in the state of Veracruz. I uh, I'm living in a small house in my room. I have a television. I have a television from the mid 90s, which does not work. With that said, I will start my experience. This happened to me 2 weeks ago it was already dark. At approximately 12 or 1 in the morning, I was asleep when I woke up from feeling of too much terror, feeling like someone is looking at me. I see in my room, looking at something is in my room. Sorry guys, this is hard English. When I started to see a human being made of statics. I don't know if leaving my television or entering this. I fears to get out of bed and go to the door of my room where he keeps his weapon to defend himself in case of an intruder. Meanwhile, I see this thing disappear in a very strange way, like it's out of smoke. I go to my bed trying to analyze what happened and try to sleep, and this is all my experience with the static creatures. Really, Danielle? Oh, you better take a picture of them and send them to me. I really, really love to see those. I love seeing stories from my bug. So whatever these are, they almost sound like Glimmerman stories, to be honest with you, but only static people stories. It's wild. That last one, though, not the last one, but the one before that, kind of goes with everything that what I've seen, experienced, or felt, or have heard about. Like, I think everything is one and the same. I really do. Just like different ways of seeing it. Does anybody else feel that way, or am I alone in that? Let me know. So this person says they've always manifested as a humanoid. Every story I've heard always describes them as a humanoid. They may have exaggerated features such as elongated limbs or inhuman faces, but their overall form is always humanoid. What this signifies is still beyond me, but it's an element. It always appears. They aren't malicious. I haven't come across a story of them attacking or harming anyone. They scare the shit out of people and can appear very menacing, but they don't appear to have any malice intent. This points to another intriguing aspect that I am currently investigating, that they are intelligent. I believe that they sound intelligent, like they know what they're doing. And like I said, they coincide, sound like Glimmerman, or what I've researched on Glimmerman. It's very wild to me. So what do you guys think? What's going on here? What could such anomalous entities possibly be? And what does it all mean? Is it related to the hauntings, demons, or something stranger? Could these be related to the interdimensional phenomenon with these entities briefly pushing through the veil between realities? It is difficult to say, and is certainly a rather new and unexplored section of the paranormal that will perhaps become clearer as time goes on. And like I said, that's the first time I've heard about it. Of course, Pammy. You can send them on Facebook or shadowsofthemoons@yahoo.com. Through email. It's all crazy. It was pitch dark. Crap. Hold on. Let me paste that so I can scroll up. It was it's pitch dark. Having a sig, lots of loud, many walking, then things came to wooden fence. Wow, Pammy. That's definitely scary. Hey, Jim, how are you? So yeah, my email is shadows of the moons with an S at the end at yahoo.com. Sure I spelled that right. Faces from lights. That's wild. So that's my email, definitely. If anybody else has a story or whatnot they want me to share, let me know, and I will definitely do that. I love sharing you guys. I have a mini mixer coming, so once I get that set up, I'll be able to do call-ins a lot easier than normal, and make sure that I'm doing it right. You know, and like I said, Eddie's desk chair. Get this. You guys want to hear something? And I think it's freaking bullshit. So I surprised Eddie last night. I'm like, well, I want to buy him something because I want him to feel he has a part of this too, right? So I go and I buy him a desk and I go and buy him a chair. And I really didn't look at it. Because like I've told you guys before, shipping up here to Alaska, it's hit or miss. So like you could have a day where I could shop for anything on Amazon, go to click to check out and be like, we don't ship to your area. So it's very hit or miss but I got lucky last night. I got a desk and I made sure the specs were right and everything. And I got him a chair like this one, a gamer chair. So then I'm showing him last night and I didn't realize his desk. Now, mind you, I have my monitors up on little shelves. So it's a lot easier for, the eyesight, right? I had to buy that separate. His desk comes with one. And if that's not the kicker, the chair that I bought him, like mine, vibrates. What the hell's up with that? And they were both cheaper than my stuff. It's just messed up. Well, Eli, see, the thing of it is our Walmart and Target are like 6 hours away. Yeah, it's a massage chair in a freaking gamer chair. What the hell is that? That's bullshit. I might have to steal it. He's going to be like coming in here, bullshit, you're stealing my stuff. Yeah, Lisa, definitely. It amazes me how many different entities there are, some good, some bad. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I've never heard of static people until then. Yeah, Freaky Geek. It goes well with this, whole show. It's scared. That's why it vibrates. Yeah, Eli, he told me about that. So what do you think about our little town, huh? And I heard that you guys got to see inside the hotel. So do you know how the stairway is? That's where I'm talking, where that little boy is, that he runs across like he's coming from, because Eddie told me, he told you guys where our room is. So he'd be coming from our room, going across the stairway, stops, peeps around that wall, and then darts back the way he was going. So yeah, that's the stairway I'm always talking about when I'm down in the lobby sitting watching TV. It's not fair, Jim. It's not fair at all. Damn it. I was nice enough to surprise him. And it's just bullshit that everything else comes extra with his and none of it came with mine. No, I can't wait I am so excited about him joining the show with me. I really am. He has such a good time. He's still talking about it. I'm still talking about it. Yeah, exactly, Freaky Geek. And I definitely think it's residual because of the fact that he does the same thing over and over again. It's not like, I mean, if he's peeking at me, you know, all that time, it's the same spot, it's the same area, you know what I mean? It's the same movement. So I definitely believe it's residual. And it makes sense because we do have kids here. We have family rooms, and the family room is right near our room. The two family rooms that we have are right near the family suites, are right near where sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic, right, but where he would need to run. So it makes sense. No, I think you had saw it. Well, oh, that could be. Oh, yeah. This one's a little boy, though. You can tell by like how the hair. I mean, maybe it is a little girl, but it looks like a little boy. The way his hair is. Hey, Doug, how are you? Welcome, welcome. How are you? Yes, there are stories about the Glitter Man. I have a story. I have videos about the Glitter Man. Glimmer Man. I'm like, oh, the Glitter Man. I thought you said the Glimmer Man because the Glimmer Man is the invisible one. But this is called Glitter Man. I'm surprised I didn't come up with that when I was, or you know what I mean? It didn't pop up when I was researching the Glimmer Man. Of course, all I got was the Steven Seagal movies. No, I got some stories. No problem, Nicole. You got a new mousy thingy? Spindles. What spindles? Much love, Mary. Have a great day, hon. I'm about getting off of here myself. So, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you were talking about the Glimmer Man. I'm probably not going to get to the story today because it is a long one as well, but I will put it in here. It is the ghost plane. Maybe if it decides to paste. There we go. Let me go ahead. Wrong one. Excuse me. Thank you, Doug. Thank you. So you guys know what time it is. It is, I'm playing the credits time. So you know what that means. Head on over there and we'll open the chest. I thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, everybody. Yesterday, thank you for Freaky Geek for the ice cream. Thank you so much. I'm waiting for the sound to come up. There it is. I appreciate so much what you guys did for um, the Alzheimer's Association for coming in and supporting me, coming in, supporting Eddie. I appreciate it so much. Let me go ahead and roll my credits. Maybe. Don't be flashing people now. Don't forget Thursday is not game day anymore. It is Thursday thriller day. That doesn't sound right. Thriller Thursdays, where we talk about unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. We raised about $190. Matter of fact, why is my thing not working? I did have, because I'm on the wrong screen now, but I did have, yeah, it was awesome. It was definitely awesome. You guys did such a great job, and I appreciate it so much. I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore. Hold on one second. I got to get to D Live. So make sure you spam chat over there and get ready. It's probably going to flash while I'm trying to get there because my computer hates me. So go ahead and start loading up the chat. Hold on, it's coming, guys. It's coming. You're sending pic on Twitter? Okay. Am I flashing? Yeah, I figured I would. I figured I would. Come on and load. Oh my God. Let's go ahead. We'll put 200 in the chest. Are you guys ready? Oh, 234. That's usually what. He came up on panel, Freaky Geek, Mr. Minkster, my son. Yeah, I was his GPS. Although I sent him the wrong way at first. What is going on with my D-Li chat? Oh my God, what the hell is going on? Are you guys seeing it wonky over there on D-Live? That's so weird. I'm like seeing, hey, Tommy. Hey, Tommy, I wanted to say thank you so much. I'm looking at the camera like you guys can see me. Okay, good. Long as you guys are seeing it okay. It's weird. I'm seeing all the, I don't know, copy to clipboard. And then I'm seeing all the like Ninja Love and stuff like that. It's so weird. I'm seeing what it's supposed to be. Tommy, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming up. Eddie told me that you came up on panel. I thank you so much for everybody that hung out with him. He's so excited. He can't wait to work with me too. Yeah, Thriller Thursdays is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Are you guys ready? I'm going to go ahead and open up the chest over here. When is Eddie coming back? Well, his computer should be coming in either today or tomorrow. So possibly Wednesday. It depends on. You're not ready? You're not ready? Ron, how can you not be ready? You were over there. All right, guys. I have opened up the chest. Hopefully you see it. But yeah, it possibly Wednesday he should start doing shows with me. I'm blinking again. You never ready? I know you guys don't even love me anymore. You just want Eddie. I see how it is. I'm glad. I'm glad you had fun, Tommy. I really am. Okay, we got some. Wow, nice. Ron got 100 lemons, 100.6. Eli got 58.2. Freaky Geek got 42.3. Anton got 33.8. Good job, guys. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ron, for the ice cream. Awesome, awesome. All right, guys, I am headed out. Tomorrow is Tarot Tuesday. Come get your free tarot readings. And I got to go clean this room so we can put the computer and the desk in here. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you all had a great time today listening to the stories. I hope I picked some really great stories for you. And as always, of course, if you are listening over on the podcast portion of this, links are in the show description. Also, always feel free to come over to our lives. I am live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Alaskan time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we go for mainly 2 hours usually, but it's Monday through Friday, a different subject each week, or not each week, each day, except Tarot Tuesday. That's always Tarot Tuesday. And until next time, guys, take care, be safe. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to y'all later.